My name is Olivia, I'm 31, and my own sister stole my fiancé with my family's blessing. Before I tell you about how it all ended with a restraining order and a viral video that changed everything, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. The crisp, heavy paper of the restraining order sits on my coffee table, a stark white rectangle in the afternoon sun. The black, impersonal font spells out their names: Carol, my mother, and Natalie, my sister. It feels like a final, legal confirmation of a truth I've known for years: we are strangers. The paper doesn't feel like a victory, not really. It feels heavy, like an anchor I've finally cut loose. It's the result of a chaotic week, a week that capped off 3 years of absolute, blessed silence. But the story doesn't start with this piece of paper, this final, legal wall I had to build. It starts, as these things often do, with a phone call that I never should have answered. A call from my cousin Lisa, 1 week ago, that dragged the ghosts of my past right back into the present. Mochiin bat dao bang motqak dain thoi, it all started with a phone call. To understand why I had to legally ban my own mother and sister from my life, you have to understand that I was never the daughter they wanted. My younger sister, Natalie, was. She was the golden child, the sun around which our family universe revolved. My achievements were footnotes, hers were headlines. It wasn't just 1 or 2 incidents, it was the entire architecture of my childhood. I remember it with perfect, painful clarity. When I was 12, I won the regional math competition. I had studied for months, giving up weekends while my friends were at the movies. I came home clutching a heavy, gleaming trophy, my heart pounding with a pride I couldn't contain. I found my parents in the living room. I held it up. I won, I said, my voice trembling with excitement. My father glanced up from his newspaper. "That's nice, honey," he mumbled, his eyes already returning to the sports section. My mother, Carol, gave me a tight, distracted smile. "That's great, Olivia. Put it on the shelf." And that was it. No hug, no questions about the competition, nothing. Later that evening, the house was buzzing. Aunts and uncles were over. Not for me, of course. It was for Natalie's poetry recital. She had recited a short, mediocre poem she'd written in class, and to hear my parents tell it, she was the next Amanda Gorman. They toasted her with sparkling cider. They praised her brave, artistic soul. I sat in the corner, my trophy on the mantelpiece behind me, feeling less like a prize and more like a piece of junk. That was the pattern. It was the rhythm of my childhood. Another time, when I was 16, our grandmother gave us each $100 for our birthdays, which were a week apart. "Use it for your college fund," she'd said, winking at me. I deposited mine straight into my savings account. Natalie spent hers within a day on a pair of designer jeans she wore once. When my parents found out, they didn't scold her. My father just sighed and said, "Well, she has a flair for fashion." My mother added, "She just loves beautiful things, Olivia. You should try to be a little less practical sometimes." They were telling me my responsibility was a flaw and her recklessness was a charming personality trait. It only got worse as we got older. I worked my tail off, got scholarships, and graduated with honors in computer science from a great university. I landed a good job with a promising salary right out of college. The day I graduated, my parents said they were proud, but their attention was elsewhere. Natalie had just dropped out of her community college program, her 3rd attempt, and needed their support. A few weeks later, they bought her a brand new car. A shiny red convertible. To cheer her up, my mother explained, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. "She's been struggling so much." This was after Natalie had already crashed their car. Twice. My own college fund had been mysteriously smaller than expected, and I had to take on extra loans. I never asked, but I knew. I always knew where the money went. It flowed in one direction, towards Natalie. I built my life quietly, on my own terms. I was good at my job. I was reliable. And then, I met Ryan. He was smart, funny, and for the first time, I felt truly seen. He listened when I talked about my work, his eyes lit up when I explained complex coding problems. We met at a work conference, and after 8 months of dating, he proposed. I was ecstatic. I finally had someone, that was just mine. I couldn't wait for my family to meet him. That was my mistake. I thought he would be the one thing they couldn't take from me, the one part of my life they would have to respect. I was so wrong. The dinner was a disaster from the moment we walked in. I introduced Ryan, and Natalie's eyes lit up in a way that made my stomach clench. She was all over him. She laughed too loudly at his jokes, touched his arm constantly, and flipped her hair back in that practiced way of hers. "Oh, Olivia never told me how handsome you were," she cooed, completely ignoring me. My parents ate it up. They ignored me completely, directing all their questions and attention to the sparkling duo of Ryan and Natalie. "You two connect so well," my mother beamed. "It's like you've known each other for years." I sat there, a guest at my own engagement celebration, feeling my skin turn cold. I felt invisible. I tried to join the conversation, to talk about a recent project Ryan and I were excited about, but my mother just waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, Olivia, don't bore everyone with your work talk." Ryan, instead of defending me, just gave a weak smile and turned his attention back to Natalie. A few weeks later, the bomb dropped. Ryan came over to my apartment. He couldn't look me in the eye. He stood shuffling his feet by the door, like a stranger. "We need to talk," he said. He mumbled something about how he was confused, how he hadn't meant for it to happen. "I can't control my feelings, Olivia," he said, his voice weak. I think I'm in love with Natalie." The words hung in the air, thick and poisonous. It felt like a punch to the gut, knocking all the air out of my lungs. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt a profound, chilling emptiness. "In love with her?" I finally managed to whisper. "Ryan, you've met her once." He winced. "It was more than that. We've been talking since that night. I just feel this connection I've never felt before. A connection built on the ashes of my trust." After he left, my hands shaking, I did the one thing I was conditioned to do. I called my mother. I needed my mom. Through a voice tight with shock, I told her what happened. I expected sympathy. I expected anger on my behalf. What I got was a calm, almost bored, sigh. "Well, these things happen, Olivia," she said, her voice devoid of any warmth. "You can't force these things." I was floored. "Mom, he was my fiancé. She's my sister." "And you should be happy for your sister," she cut in, her voice hardening. "Natalie has struggled so much since she dropped out of college. She deserves good things. She deserves to be happy." Deserves. That word echoed in my head. Natalie deserved my fiancé. She deserved my happiness. And I deserved, what? To step aside, to be the gracious loser once again. "So what I feel doesn't matter?" I asked, my voice cracking. There was a pause. "Don't be so dramatic, Olivia. You're strong. You'll be fine. Natalie is more sensitive." I hung up the phone. I didn't call my father. I knew what he would say. He was just an echo of my mother's voice. That night, something inside me broke. Or maybe, it was finally forged into something hard and unbreakable. I saw it later that night. A friend, not knowing any better, sent me a screenshot. It was a new post on Natalie's social media. A picture of her and Ryan, beaming. His arm was around her, and on her left hand, sparkling under the restaurant lights, was my engagement ring. My ring. The caption read, finally found my true soulmate. Some things are just meant to be. The public humiliation was the final nail in the coffin. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was a victory lap, broadcast for everyone I knew to see. I didn't pack much. I booked a one-way ticket to a state hundreds of miles away where my company had another office. I wrote one final, short email, addressed to my parents and my sister. The subject line was goodbye. The body of the email was just one sentence: I saw the post. I understand now. Then I blocked their numbers, blocked their emails, blocked their social media. I walked out of my apartment and didn't look back. I was cutting them out of my life. Not with anger, but with the cold, hard finality of a surgeon removing a cancer. The first year was the hardest. It was a blur of long hours at my new job and quiet, empty evenings in my small apartment. The loneliness was a physical weight. I remember my first Thanksgiving alone. I bought a sad little turkey dinner from the grocery store and ate it standing up in my kitchen, staring at the wall. I scrolled through social media and saw pictures of families laughing, of tables laden with food. I had to turn my phone off, the silence of my apartment suddenly deafening. I thought about calling my cousin Lisa, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I couldn't bear the pity in her voice. I remember one night, close to Christmas, I actually had the phone in my hand, my thumb hovering over my mother's number. I was crying, a deep, ragged sob that came from a place of pure exhaustion. But I stopped myself. I remembered her voice on the phone, cool and distant. I remembered the picture of Natalie wearing my ring. I put the phone down and went back to work. That was my turning point. I realized the comfort I was seeking was an illusion. It had never really been there. The second year, things started to change. The fog began to lift. I started to feel free. I joined a local photography class on a whim, needing something to do that wasn't work. That's where I met Marcus. He was an architect, kind and quiet, with a steady presence that felt like coming home. On our third class, we went for coffee afterwards. He asked me about my family. I gave him the short, vague version. He just listened, then said, "It sounds like you've had to be your own parent for a long time." The observation was so astute, so gentle, it cracked something open in me. I told him the whole sordid tale. He didn't offer platitudes. He just looked at me and said something that would become my mantra: "You don't owe them forgiveness, Olivia. You only owe yourself peace." He helped me see that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, it was survival. The third year was my year of thriving. I got a promotion at work, then another. My salary increased significantly, and for the first time, I felt financially secure, a security I had built entirely on my own. I bought a small house with a little garden. I filled it with my photographs, with light, and with laughter. Marcus and I were building a life together, a life based on mutual respect and genuine affection. I was happy. Truly, deeply happy. The past was a scar, but it no longer ached. And then, the phone rang. It was my cousin, Lisa. We had kept in touch sporadically. She was the one neutral party in the family. "Hey, Liv," she started, her voice a little hesitant. "Just wanted to check in. And, well, I have some news." She told me that Ryan and Natalie had broken up. Apparently, Ryan had lost his job about a year ago, started drinking heavily, and the true love had fizzled out pretty quickly. Natalie had dumped him and moved back home with my parents. Lisa also mentioned that my parents were in serious financial trouble. My dad's company had downsized, and he was forced into early retirement with a much smaller pension. With Natalie back home, unemployed and with her expensive tastes, they were struggling to make ends meet. They burned through whatever was left of Grandma's inheritance money, Lisa said, her voice laced with disapproval. I thanked Lisa for the information, my voice carefully neutral. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity. Just a distant sort of finality. But I was naive. I thought that was the end of it. It was only the beginning. A few days later, I received an email with a subject line that made my blood run cold, "Thinking of you." It was from my mother. It was a long, rambling message about how much she missed me, how she prayed for me every night, how she just wanted her family back together. There was no mention of the betrayal, no apology. Just a thick layer of manipulative sentimentality. I deleted it without replying. Then came an email from Natalie. She asked if she could come stay with me for a few weeks to get back on her feet. She said she needed a change of scenery. The audacity was breathtaking. I replied with a single, polite sentence, "I'm sorry, but that's not possible." Her response was instantaneous and venomous. She accused me of being selfish, of holding grudges, of flaunting my success while my own family suffered. She said I had always been cold and unforgiving. It was like stepping back in time. All the old accusations, the old manipulations. I blocked her email address. That's when I got the email about the award. It was the Innovator in Tech Award, a huge honor in my field. The ceremony was a big gala event. I told Marcus, and I told Lisa. I was excited, but also a little anxious. Public recognition had always been Natalie's territory. In my excitement, I didn't think about the consequences of sharing the news. Lisa, in a moment of what she later called stupid, hopeful optimism, mentioned my award to my mother during a family phone call. She thought my mother would be proud. She was wrong. She had just handed them a map. The night of the gala was supposed to be the culmination of everything I had worked for. The ballroom was glittering, filled with the brightest minds in my industry. I was wearing a simple, elegant black dress. Marcus was by my side, handsome and proud. I had just finished a short interview on the red carpet area outside the main hall, and I was standing with Marcus and my CEO, Mr. Harrison, when I saw them. My mother and Natalie. They were at the edge of the velvet ropes, looking completely out of place. Their clothes were cheap and wrinkled, their faces etched with a desperate kind of anger. A security guard was trying to speak to them, but my mother pushed past him, her voice rising, sharp and shrill, cutting through the polite chatter of the crowd. "Olivia!" "My daughter," she yelled, making a scene. All heads turned. The cameras, which had just been pointed at me in celebration, now swiveled to capture this new drama. "How can you do this? How can you abandon your family?" Natalie, a master of theatrics, stepped forward, her eyes welling up with fake tears. "You're living in luxury while your family is about to lose their house," she cried. "We're struggling to survive, and you're here buying fancy dresses. Don't you have a heart? This is all your fault." They were trying to paint me as the villain, the cold, heartless daughter who had cast her suffering family aside. For a second, the old Olivia, the 12-year-old girl with the trophy, wanted to shrink, to apologize, to make it all go away. But she was gone. I could feel Marcus's hand tighten on mine, a silent anchor. I could see Mr. Harrison's face, a mask of professional concern. I held up a hand to the approaching security guards, a silent request for them to wait. I stood tall. I didn't move towards them. I let the cameras flash, let the microphones listen. I looked at my mother, then at my sister, and I spoke, my voice calm and clear, carrying across the sudden, dead silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice not wavering in the slightest. "This is my mother, Carol, and my sister, Natalie." I paused, letting everyone look at them, taking in their disheveled appearance and their furious expressions. 3 years ago, they taught me a very valuable lesson. They taught me that their love is conditional. It is reserved only for those who can provide for them. I then turned my gaze directly to my mother, locking eyes with her. The shock on her face was satisfying. "I learned that lesson well, Mother," I said, my voice dropping but still carrying. "And that is why I will never provide for you again." The silence that followed was absolute. It was a silence so profound you could feel it. The reporters were speechless. My mother's mouth hung open. Natalie's fake tears had frozen on her face. Their plan had backfired spectacularly. They had come to humiliate me, but in my calm refusal to play their game, I had simply held up a mirror to their own greed and desperation. They weren't victims. They were parasites, exposed in the brightest of spotlights. Mr. Harrison gave a subtle nod to the security team. This time, when they stepped forward, my mother and sister didn't resist. They were led away, their faces a mask of pure, unadulterated shock and shame. As they disappeared, Marcus squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with pride. The spell was broken. The crowd started to murmur, but it wasn't with judgment for me. It was with a dawning understanding. I had not just won an award that night. I had won my life back. The aftermath was swift. Someone had filmed the entire exchange on their phone, and by the next morning, the video was everywhere. It was raw, unfiltered, and undeniable. My inbox was flooded with messages of support from strangers, from old colleagues, from people who understood. But the victory was tainted by what came next. The day after the gala, I received an email. It was from my father. His first communication in 3 years. It was short. "You have embarrassed this family," it read. I stared at the words, felt a flicker of the old pain, and then I did something the old Olivia never could have. I dragged the email to the trash and emptied it, without a second thought. But they didn't stop. They started showing up. My mother appeared in the lobby of my office building, crying to the receptionist about her heartless daughter. She claimed she was just trying to see me, that she was worried. The receptionist, a kind woman named Brenda, called up to my office. "Olivia, your mother is down here. She seems very upset." I told Brenda, my voice firm, "Brenda, please inform her that if she does not leave the premises, I will call security. She is not welcome here." The harassment escalated. Natalie left a series of screaming, abusive voicemails on my phone. They started leaving letters at my apartment, letters filled with pleas for money alternating with vicious insults. It was a campaign, plain and simple. They were trying to break me down, to force me back into the role they had created for me. The final straw was when my mother cornered me in the parking garage after work. She just appeared out of nowhere, grabbing my arm. "We need to talk," she hissed, her face twisted. "You owe us." I pulled my arm away, my heart hammering. "I don't owe you anything," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "Leave me alone." That's when I called a lawyer. I sat in a sleek, modern office, explaining the situation, my voice surprisingly steady. "This isn't about revenge," I told the calm, professional woman across the desk. "This is about peace. I need it to stop." She nodded, her expression understanding. She explained the process for a restraining order. It was a final, drastic step, but they had left me no choice. Signing that document was the real closure. It was me, choosing my own well-being over their toxic demands, once and for all. That was 6 months ago. Life is quiet now. A good kind of quiet. Marcus and I are decorating our house. We just hung a series of my photographs in the main hallway. In the center is a framed picture from the night of the gala. It's not a picture of me holding the award. It's a candid shot someone took right after security led my family away. I'm standing on the red carpet, my back straight, my chin up, looking not at the cameras, but at Marcus. The look on my face isn't one of triumph, but one of profound relief. It's the face of a woman who has finally set herself free. Lisa called last week. She told me, hesitantly, that Ryan had tried to get in touch with her, asking for my number after he saw the video. He wanted to apologize. Apparently, his life had continued its downward spiral. I just laughed. A real, genuine laugh. "Tell him I'm not accepting applications for ghosts," I said, and we changed the subject. He is so far in my past he's not even a speck in the rearview mirror. My life isn't about them anymore. It's about what I'm building. At work, I started a mentorship program for young women in the tech field. I had a coffee meeting just yesterday with a brilliant young coder who is terrified of speaking up in meetings. I told her, your voice has value. Your ideas have value. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small for taking up space. As I said the words, I realized I was also saying them to the younger version of myself. I'm giving them the support I never had, turning my own pain into a source of strength for others. This morning, I was in my garden, planting new seeds. The sun was warm on my back. I looked at the rich, dark soil, and I thought about how some relationships are like weeds. You can't fix them. You can't prune them into something beautiful. You just have to pull them out by the roots so that the real flowers have room to grow. Marcus brought me a cup of tea, his presence a comforting warmth beside me. We sat together, looking out at the garden, at the life we were building. I didn't look back at the house, at the things I owned. I looked out, towards the wide-open horizon. It was a feeling I had chased for years, a feeling I had finally built for myself, brick by brick, boundary by boundary. It was peace. It was freedom. It was home. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to share, but I hope it can help someone else out there who might be feeling trapped or unseen. What's one boundary you've set that has made your life better? I'd love to read your stories in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more. You are not alone.